cool.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the AFL Access 2018 AFL Grand Final review between West Coast Eagles and the Collingwood Pies. I'm Ryan. I'm joined here with Joel.
Sup?
And we're going to be going through and kind of breaking down how the game went, what happened on the day, how it panned out, so on and so forth as we go through and break it all down. So, game starts, bounce down, 12:30 p.m. It's a huge occasion. I think everyone's pretty well on the fence as to how it's going to go down, who's going to win, how each team is going to play. We've got obviously past performance in West Coast in 2015, who didn't really perform particularly well, and then Collingwood, is a pretty unknown side in terms of grand final experience and everything. I, as a West Coast fan, was obviously very, very ecstatic that we got there, but super, super nervous that, Collingwood could do to us what they did to Richmond only, the week before. How do you feel coming into the game?
I was just
as a sort of not supporting either of the teams.
Yeah, well, I was kind of just like, look, at the very, very least, it be not a complete blowout one way or another. I just want to see a good grand final because holy shit. Yeah, like 2012 was like the last, I wouldn't say good one, but it was the last close, competitive, well-fought match. And honestly, I was kind of just, I was just like, hopefully this is a good match. The first quarter didn't inspire too much hope because I was like, oh god, it's going to be a blowout again. but yeah, even the pre-game entertainment, I was just like, oh my god, what? The Black Eyed Peas in 2018, Gillan McLaughlin, you madman.
Yeah, it wasn't even... Black Eyed Peas didn't even really sound that great. They were probably overshadowed by the band in the background as well. Barnsey was good.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Barnsey, that is what that if I were, I might not even be a massive fan of Barnsey, but that makes sense, an Australian sporting event, not the washed up remnants of the Black Eyed Peas. So yeah.
So okay, well let's go back, right? First quarter, 5 goals are slammed on by Collingwood.
Yeah.
At that point, did you think that West Coast could come back? Because I was I was having Vietnam flashbacks to 2015.
I was just like, oh god, no! Oh, I don't want another blowout because it's just, yeah. It was a bit. I know it's like the first quarter, but I'm like, yeah, that doesn't set the good tone for the game. Good tone for the game. Just like watching, Jaden Stevenson kick 2 quickly. I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
So
and then just some pretty boneheaded kicks. Also, Kennedy missing that set shot. I'm just like, oh shit. That was kind. I mean, well, I wasn't gonna say yeah. I was just like, oh man, this is gonna be this is gonna be a long day.
I tell you what's a nice eulogy for the day, a nice sort of prediction for the day that was going to come, right? Literally minutes before the Collingwood players come out to run on the ground, their banner goes, right? It kind of epitomizes the day for them, though, because right in the last dying minutes, the day is snatched from them.
Pretty much, but then again, I would also, and even then, I wouldn't even say that's a fair assessment because I do believe that, again, and if West Coast had kicked straight, I would have gotten the prediction right, and the 2 goal margin right as well, and I would have been on top of, and the Norm Smith medal, and I would have been on top of the world.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, you pretty much got all of your predictions on point, though, didn't you?
Pretty much. I mean, honestly, I was kind of like, if I felt that, if Collingwood were going to win, Norm Smith goes to what, side bottom. But I was kind of like, yeah, Luke Shuey, he gets it done.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of grand finals, you mentioned it before. This is probably, one of the better, more watchable grand finals of recent times. Yeah. What would you, maybe in no particular order, what would be your favourite grand finals over the last 10 years, and does this stack up with them?
Okay, so favorite grand finals over the past 10 years. Well, I mean, like, a part of me really enjoyed watching Hawthorn completely dominate Sydney. Like, it was as a game itself, it was just, obviously it wasn't a contest, but I was just kind of like, yeah, I think it was I personally enjoyed it, but yeah, probably not the most enjoyable game. 2017, -5 stars. Would never watch again. Like, and I couldn't watch the game like the Eagles versus the Hawks because I was in the hospital because I broke my arm at uni games, and I was just like, oh man, I'm gonna miss a really competitive grand final. Check the score on my phone, and I just looked at it. I was like, yeah, nah. Yeah, it was yeah. Although that being said,
it was a bit of a blowout.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there was a period when I was like in the start of high school where I really didn't pay attention to football all that much. Kind of started to get back into it around 2012 when the Crows got good again. But that being said, yeah, I'd say 2012, 2011, 2007, that was a fantastic final. Just beautiful. Sticks in the memory. Yeah, so 2007, greatest grand final of all time.
That's not within the last 10 years, though.
It goes down in, like, it's always relevant.
All right, so heading into the game, right, the week leading up to the game, I think it's fair to say that most of the media, I suppose, would have had Collingwood as favourites going into the game. I think, despite anyone was supporting or anything, I think most of the public, and I say most, I'm talking about maybe between 5% on a 50-50 scale, right? So you go on 45-55 sort of thing. The greater percentage was probably thinking that Collingwood may get over the West Coast boys, purely because of home ground advantage and stuff like that. And I think most people sort of expected West Coast to dominate in the air, or at least control the air better than what Collingwood did, but not necessarily dominate it, sort of thing. It was more going to be a ground ball. The midfield of Collingwood would get over the top of the midfield of West Coast, which did actually look like it was going to head that way in the first quarter.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, I think just like the first quarter of the game, I was just like, getting forward and taking marks. West Coast, when they had their limited chances, were doing well, but I just thought, like, just on the ground, Collingwood played better. Like, good Degoe. Like, out of all 5 of the goals they kicked, they were on the run, or not a set shot. So I think they were just playing a better, frantic
They were playing
pressure.
they were playing their game, weren't they? They were definitely playing their chaos style football.
And I did say in my preview for Collingwood, like, right, so if they want to win, be just absolute tackling nightmares that will cause more errors, and then you guys can just kind of pop it forward. And yeah, for like most of the first quarter, I felt that happened. Like that was like my first inkling, just like, no, I don't want it to be a blowout. I just want to enjoy this game.
Yeah. Well, with that, okay. Well, with that sentiment, let's go through. Let's break down the first quarter. Let's have a chat about it, how it went, how the feel of it went, who was on top, who wasn't on top. With that, we'll have a look at the AFL's official match highlights for the first quarter, and we'll go in and we'll have a quick chat about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Here we go.
Pendlebury sensational to side bottom. Adams. Here is Varco. Wonder wheel up the middle. Pendlebury again. Doing a bit of damage. Horrible kick. He had Trelaw on to go. It was down the field. Varco runs into an open.
I mean, say what you will, but Varco, I think. Well, I mean,
he's a great starter in grand finals.
Like, yeah. I mean, also I feel like Collingwood got a bit of a rub off the, run of the green, because that butchered Pendlebury kick worked out. Like, I think there were just some moments where it's just like, oh, it's gonna be like that. Like even just yeah. I'm pretty sure there's like a point in like the second quarter where Hearn and someone else Hearn and McGovern spoil each other. I'm like, oh no.
I think it's Hearn and Cole.
Yeah. Still, I was just like, that's.
And that's the start of the third quarter, I believe, when Myercheck kicks the first fourth quarter goal, maybe actually.
I just kind of like have those moments in sporting events where it's just kind of like, look, doesn't matter how well you play, when that shit happens, it's kind of, and also these kind of moments are just shocking. But yeah, like the moments where it's just like, look, doesn't matter how well you're gonna play, when stuff like that happens, it's more or less, I would say, fate. I wouldn't even say fate, but I would say, you're probably gonna lose. Like, you see them in like, yeah, like I think Collingwood in general just better on the ground in the first quarter, and then you guys went, oh shit, we gotta. Although I do feel like some of the free kicks they got were you guys got were a little bit dubious. I'll put it dubious.
I'll tell you what, Sheed gets a lot of compliments for his kick on goal for the tight angle. Will Hoskin-Elliott does the same thing right here.
Yeah. Like, I know, essentially, like, I feel the drafting. I feel the drafting acumen of. I think the drafting acumen of the Giants, just in some, like they're smart drafting. Like,
so, Andrew in the chat asks, do you believe it should have been a free kick to Maynard? If you go back and have a look at it, yes, you would have to agree that Maynard deserved a free kick in that stage. However, if you're going to go back and look at past free kicks that were not paid or paid, you would have to also agree then that Jeremy Howe pulls the ball back under in front of the goal square, doesn't get a free kick paid against. And there is another instance of holding the ball near the boundary line in the West Coast Eagles forward line in the fourth quarter as well that doesn't get paid. I would also argue, whether this is a one-eyed supporter or whatever, but still side bottom running directly at the goal to be able to get a rush behind and then regain control of the ball to be able to kick it back down long after the Sheed goal should be called deliberate as well, because he has no intention of not going over the line. I know he's under pressure, but he put himself back under pressure to get it Like, why would he run back into traffic? That to me is the definition of, deliberate over. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, like for me, I think just some of the umpiring, at least early parts of the game and some crucial moments, are just garbage. I was like even so. Okay, so the two
But
goals.
you got to take it with our game, though. Like there's going to be some really good umpiring calls, or calls that are just blatant, so they call it and everything, from really good tackles and whatnot. But there are going to be some absolute howlers that are either called or not called. And unfortunately, in this game, where it's just so high, which is such a fast-paced game, specifically it being highlighted more in a grand final and everything, you have to take the bad with the umpiring. It will never be perfectly umpired, and I think that's what people have to remember. It's going to be frustrating as all hell. It will always be frustrating as all hell, but it is very, very, very rare that any one umpiring decision or a collective of umpiring decisions is the cause of a team winning or losing a game.
Yeah. I find it more there's like Razor Ray. He can kind of more like complaining about umpiring is a cliche that is seen across every sport, but like I feel like Razor Ray, when he tried to insert himself into the game, it's just like, you fucking kidding me? Like you shouldn't be snaking your way into.
Yeah, it's interesting you say this, because I love Razor Ray. I love the fact that an umpire has a personality. I don't think it affects his ability to umpire or stay impartial to umpiring certain teams or certain players or anything, any more than what a normal umpire has any impartiality towards their umpiring skills and everything. But I love. I know. I love being able to watch officials, and it's not just the AFL. You've got one in rugby, I think over in England, who asserts himself in a similar manner. I suppose it's his way of relating to the players to be able to get the players to listen to him, to stop infringing. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I love watching it from Razor.
Yeah.
Although a lot of people, and I'm assuming you'd be one of them, absolutely hate, watching him do it.
Yeah, some of them, again, it might be sour grapes. But yeah, like sometimes I just don't. Sometimes his either too unforgivingly banging your pinged, or he lets a play flow on for too long, like the ball bobbles out or gets thrown out or whatever, no call, and you got like an extra 30 seconds of jostling, and then he goes, oh yeah, ball up, and I'm like, come on, just
I don't think that's a symptom of Razor, though. That's pretty much all umpiring across the board will go through and do those things. No one umpire will be consistent in when they blow the whistle. I think as well, on the ground, you've got a much better appreciation for where the ball is in the contest, as to whether it's locked in or whether it's still being fumbling around under the bodies, as to whether it's a chance to come out. So I think a lot of umpires will hold off on the whistle sometimes, because they can actually see the ball is not properly locked in. So they're giving it a chance to come out. Whereas sometimes, you can definitely see the ball is locked in. Let's speed this up. It's not coming out. We'll blow the whistle now. Get the ball up. I think that's an instruction given to them as well. But on the cameras and stuff, it's a bit trickier to see that. I think you've got a much better feel for that on the actual ground.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like, might just be sour grapes. It's just sometimes. Also, like, one of the furthest away field umpires calling stuff, like, from 50 meters away. You're just like, the closer umpire called nothing, but
again, I kind of agree with you, and I kind of don't, because sometimes a controlling umpire, again, will have a player in his view and he hasn't been able to see the play, or he's missed a really stupidly obvious free kick. And so the non-controlling goes, well, you've missed that. And normally the non-controlling one only comes in late, as a late call because he's noticed the main controlling arm didn't pay an obvious free kick there. Sometimes, and I mean sometimes and very rarely, do they pay one that probably wasn't there when they shouldn't have called one because they would have gone, I think that was a free kick, and the officiating one didn't do it, so I'm going to blow the whistle. I agree, they shouldn't be doing it there, but most of the time I think they get it right.
Yeah, that, like, there are some, like, absolute howlers I've seen, like, it was last year, David McKay against the Hawks at the MCG. He's got, I think, Puopolo in a tackle, rolled him to, spun him to the ground, not like a violent throwing, but just ground him down, and then Puopolo rolls on his front, and McKay kind of dives, I wouldn't say kind of just incidentally went into his back, and they gave him a free kick, Puopolo a free kick, as opposed to holding the ball, which I was just like, are you shitting me? Like, it's not pretty much he dived into him, he pretty much rolled on his front and then kind of fell forward, then more than actually, a push or something.
Yeah. Coming back to the grand final, though.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it before. First quarter, and Andrew in the chat there, we'll come back to the whole Maynard, Sheed, Rioli thing when we come to discuss the fourth quarter specifically. So we'll hold off on just discussing that. West Coast come out the blocks, free kick to Shuey, first 15 seconds. Beautiful kick into Kennedy. Kennedy has a shot. It just fades away to the right.
Yeah.
And then Collingwood go on to kick on 5 unanswered goals with, I think, 2 minutes to go in the quarter.
Yeah.
Collingwood are pretty... I think... I never got the feel, per se, that Collingwood had control of the match. Because, obviously, Mason Cox... even Grundy didn't have a possession until the second quarter. I don't think Cox had a possession until the second quarter either.
Yeah.
And I say second quarter, I mean like well into the second quarter.
Yeah.
I never felt that Collingwood were controlling the game, but they were controlling the scoreboard.
Yeah. Like, at least for me, I honestly thought Collingwood was a bit in cruise control heading into quarter time, and then West Coast got those 2 goals, and I was like, all right, it's at least pegged back a bit. I wouldn't say Eagles are back in it, but I would say it's a bit more on the level now. And even then, the second quarter was just phenomenal pressure, just an absolute dogfight, which...
Both ways. See, I was with my mate watching it, who's also a West Coast supporter, and at the 4-goal mark, after Collingwood had kicked 4 goals, we'd both said to each other we would be happy with 1 goal just on the board to settle us. 2 goals would be great. And then Collingwood goes and kicks another goal, and I think we both said, we just looked at each other and we went, we've lost. It's just gone. It's too far. 5-goal margin in the first quarter. We're going to have to expend so much energy to get back into this sort of thing. And then we kicked the 2 quick goals, and it was basically back to the 3-goal margin that we would have preferred to have been at quarter time at that 4-goal margin. So we thought, do you know what? Those 2 goals, it's probably settled our boys now. They've settled into the game. They're not so overawed by the pressure and so on and so forth. And from there came the really good game that followed, the following 3 quarters. I think if they had not scored the 2 goals and had only scored the 1 or nothing at all, Collingwood's momentum would have carried on into the second quarter.
Oh, yeah. I think that, just kind of like you needed that equilibrium of momentum, or at least snatch a couple goals. The Ryan goal was... Yeah.
The Rioli goal,
Ryan goal was that little... Yeah, maybe that was the moment when I was talking earlier about, like, it doesn't matter how well you play after this, you're probably not going to win, because those little moments of just luck or dumb luck or just pure skill kind of gets, I wouldn't say gets you over the line, but definitely
Yeah. So the first quarter ends. West Coast have kicked the last 2 goals. Coaches have had a chat to the teams what to do from here for the next quarter, how to proceed. Second quarter comes up. Let's have a look at the second quarter highlights.
Yep.
And that set the tone.
Yeah.
So this entire quarter has been scoreless, I think, besides one West Coast behind.
Oh, that was a good bump.
So for more than half of the quarter... So we've got 5 minutes left in the entire quarter, and neither of the teams have kicked a goal yet.
Yeah.
It's just been a slogfest of contested hard footy.
Yeah. But the state of the game... And that
happens. that was a magical moment by De Goey. Damn him.
Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Oh my god. Imagine the insufferability of Eddie Maguire if his sons get into the AFL. I mean, like, you know, if they're good on them, but, you know, their dad's...
I tell you, as much as people like to hate on Eddie Maguire, he's the best thing that's happened to Collingwood.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, but it's just more, he's a bit, I wouldn't say the Jerry Jones of AFL. I mean, Jerry Jones is more like, yeah, he's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, who more or less runs the league. They have a puppet, and then they got the Shadow Emperor, so yeah.
So I think the biggest thing that came out of the second quarter was... I think it was pretty clear that Collingwood were on top in the first quarter. Maybe not necessarily in terms of the stats or anything, but they definitely had scoreboard pressure, and they were pretty freely scoring goals, let alone having scoring opportunities. So I think the best thing that came out, the main thing that came out of the second quarter was Collingwood maintained that sort of pressure, and they maintained the ability to, stop West Coast scoring and everything. But West Coast then also stepped up and stopped Collingwood from scoring. I think the total scores, and this is within the last 5 minutes of playing time, ended up being 1 goal to Collingwood and 2 goals to West Coast. So they'd pegged back another goal and were basically... Well, I think half-time, they ended up being...
under 2 goals?
Yeah. It's like 10 or 11 points down or something like that.
Exactly 2 goals.
Well, there you go. So it was definitely... They were feeling in the game. As opposed to the end of the first quarter, they were feeling... Even after the 2 goals, you probably still had the sense that Collingwood were in control of the match. It was now that you felt neither team is in control. Both teams have a genuine shot from here, 2 goals down. The start of the third quarter was going to be very, very important as to who was potentially going to run on to win the game. That's how I felt anyway. I was feeling much more confident at half-time with where West Coast were as a West Coast supporter. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like, I would say they would have wrestled back control. Well, it was more of an actual... arm wrestle than the first quarter. Like, even with a Collingwood, if I were a Collingwood supporter, I'd be like, let's just not turn this into an arm wrestle. Let's just, because, like, I just felt it was a much more contested, hard-hitting game. Might not have been as many goals, but you just kind of like, let's not turn this into a contest, or have it turn into itself into a contest. You just keep putting the pressure on, kick goals, and you know what I mean? Like, I would be confident, but also just a bit cautious, so to speak. If I were a Collingwood supporter, I'd be confident, but also pretty cautious.
So up until that point, going into halftime, right, there has only been 10 goals scored for the match. It's not much, right? Coming into the third quarter, obviously, West Coast are 2 goals down exactly. There's only 2 goals in it. The match is starting to feel much more balanced. It's much more even. Both teams are having a really red-hot crack. I think contested possessions are quite high. I think West Coast at this point is winning contested possessions, which was a bit of a surprise for most people, especially considering that they were down on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say Mason Cox hasn't been playing very well. He's been completely dominated by Barras. Grundy is, at this stage, I wouldn't say he's having a great game. He's breaking even sort of thing. I think he's winning the hit-outs and everything, but he's having no influence on the contest. So I think Lysette and Vardy are having more of an influence in terms of just being able to nullify him.
I honestly think Nathan Vardy actually had a not in the stats, but I think just in general had a pretty good day.
Well, I think Simpson was very smart in that at the start of the game, I think perhaps for the first half, or at least for the first quarter, the second ruckman was going to the bench instead of going into the forward line to stretch Collingwood's lack of height. And Simpson made the move to have the resting ruckman then go into the forward line to rest as opposed to on the bench. And it started, you could really start to see the stretching of, the lack of height in Collingwood's defence, particularly after half-time. Because both Lysette and Vardy have shots on goal, I think in the third quarter or the fourth quarter. Vardy converts, Lysette doesn't.
Yeah, that was another thing, Lysette. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a super long day for West Coast when I was just like, so Lysette misses a pretty easy one in the third quarter, and Kennedy misses one in the first, and I'm just like, oh boy. It's going to be one of those days.
So coming into the third quarter, obviously it's feeling pretty even. It's anyone's game. Let's have a look at the third quarter highlights.
Yep.
And then Mychek sets it up. Cox, almost, not quite. He had his best chance, I reckon, today. Hearn poking the ball towards the line. Back to Mychek.
So it should be noted that West Coast have already kicked a goal at this point. So they're only a goal down. Cox is now starting to work his way into the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, as much as, I think he played pretty well.
After half-time, he definitely got better.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I remember watching his debut against the Bombers and him just plucking a massive chest mark for the first goal of the game. I was just like, oh man, this dude, I wouldn't say he has got it, but he's getting it. So, you know what I mean? He's just like, lanky fucker. Also, some of that bounce, I was just like, can you recall that? That was really bad.
Do you know, that happened about 3 times on the day, I think. They had some really bad bounces.
Oh, yeah.
And that weren't recalled.
I mean, in theory, that should have really benefited West Coast, but I was just like... it ended up working out for Collingwood, but I'm still just like... You want to try that again? Well, yeah, Lacroix didn't...
So you have to have a look here as well. So Mason Cox at one end is having a real impact for Collingwood. He's starting to clunk some marks. At the other end, Jack Darling is starting to bring himself into the game as well, and he's starting to clunk a lot of marks as well. I think he had 6 marks for this quarter alone after having done nothing.
This kick. Oh boy. I think that was also another...
Yeah, a bit of a turning point, I think, for the runner. In saying that, I don't think the runner affected that anyway. I don't think... I think it was Chris Mayne he blocked, maybe. He wasn't getting to that contest. Yo was cutting it off every day of the week.
Yeah. But yeah, just those...
And hello, Matthew Heath in the chat there too, mate.
Yeah.
So the third quarter happens, right? The third quarter, when I first started watching the first quarter, when it was coming out and it was being played, I thought to myself, and I said this to my friend, this looks like it's turning into a shootout, and that is something that Collingwood does not want. Collingwood do not want to have a shootout against West Coast, because if it's going end to end and each forward line is getting repeat shots on goal, I felt that West Coast forward, power forwards would get over the top of Collingwood's forward line sort of thing, because they didn't have, I felt they have more diversity, but they have to rely on much smaller players to get the job done, as opposed to West Coast forward line. It's much more. I mean, if they're not grabbing it, their smalls are very good crummers as well. Particularly Rioli is very good at crumbing.
Yeah, I mean, he is a Rioli. I mean, okay, that stereotype, I could be wrong with that stereotype. The next Rioli that gets drafted is a big bruising defender. So, I mean, yeah, but I was kind of like, I was also thinking the same, like, well, not the same, but I was saying, like, this is going to turn into a shootout. And, yeah, like, I was like, could, not would Collingwood be able to keep up, but could they? Because that is, like, I would say the firepower of the West Coast forward line is just like, yeah, that's some terrifying shit. And, like, you need some, like, really good lockdown defenders, like, I don't know, Italia, Rance, or something like that.
Well, see, if Dunn was playing, I reckon their backline would have looked much, much better against, like, the names of their backline would have looked much better lining up against West Coast forward line. It's that extra tall lockdown defender that can play that role. But unfortunately, as we know, he was not going to be playing. I think Darcy Moore was pretty close to playing, but just fell short and wasn't able to. And I think he really would have helped that defense as well against the Talls.
Like, I mean, I won't, again, I haven't really watched much Collingwood football, but it kind of just seems like their midfield forwards and some of their smaller forwards just kind of, and even like Cox and Myercheck more or less also got a bit of the action, but it was mostly the midfield forwards just kind of scoring. And if you're playing as high pressure as that game was, and the midfield forwards have to do all that heavy lifting just to get the ball down the other end, I think that might have stifled them a bit, and maybe.
I'll tell you what surprised me, that Collingwood employed against Richmond, but didn't employ against West Coast. And I'm not sure whether. I'm just trying to think of Richmond's lineup, and this may ring true. Mason Cox in the Richmond preliminary final was standing the mark on a lot of shots on goal. Now, it meant that in the back end of the game, he was not able to really contest in the forward line as much, because he was really gassed. But he was, it impeded a lot of shots on goal from Richmond because he was standing the mark. Yeah. Now, I don't know whether it's because perhaps West Coast have much more longer or powerful kicks in their front half, that can kick quite comfortably 50, 55 metres, as to whether they thought, Collingwood thought it's probably not even worth, Cox standing the mark, because, these players can kick from further back anyway, it's not going to be a problem, or whether they wanted to keep Cox in the game later, which actually helped him out in the back half anyway, because he got into the game the more the game went on. Whereas I think if he was maybe standing the mark, that wouldn't have happened. So I don't know. It could have been a smarter play from Collingwood identifying that anyway. But it surprised me that they didn't even try it once.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, when I think of Richmond, I mostly think Jack Revolt, and then kind of a supporting cast of other players more or less helping. But yeah, like I think just I think like you got Josh Kennedy, Jack Darling, and those blokes who can just are a thumping kick. I mean, I don't see Mason Cox really affect. Well, it would. I maybe that's just me. I just don't see Mason Cox standing the mark being any different to like when Josh Kennedy strolls in and tries to ping one from 50.
Yeah. So the third quarter, there's 10 goals that have been kicked to halftime. It does look like the game is starting to develop into a bit of a shootout, as 6 goals are kicked in that quarter alone. So 60% of the goals that have been kicked in the first half have just been kicked in the third quarter alone. So it looks like the teams are starting to open up a bit more. The pressure is starting to come down a bit more, although the feel of the game is still very high pressure. And West Coast have now drawn and pulled back that margin to equal points. It's 55 each into third quarter time. It feels like, in saying that, even though West Coast have been pulling back all game, it still feels like it's either team's game to win. It doesn't feel like Collingwood are losing the game. It just feels like West Coast. It definitely did feel like West Coast have been controlling the game much better since quarter time, and they've got some control on the game, but they're not necessarily in a winning position or definitely going to win at this stage.
I'd also argue it's kind of one of those. It's a catch-22. You're within distance, but they are as well.
Yeah, and how much energy has West Coast spent trying to make up that margin? Is that going to backfire them in the fourth quarter as well? And we come into the fourth quarter, and as we'll see in the highlights in a couple of seconds anyway, Collingwood kicked the first 2 goals in very quick succession, and it looks like they're going to run away with it pretty fast.
Yeah.
3 great quarters of football. Do we get a classic finish? Main off a step. Cox with one hand.
And that was an unfortunate bit of play. Really good roving by Myercheck. But both defenders go to ground. And then side bottom hasn't been a factor all game. He's done nothing at all. And then there he goes.
Yeah.
Nathan Buckley with a stroke of genius, putting to go into the midfield too to spark up some run and carry.
Dobs it from outside. God damn.
And then Vardy comes in and does his job. That's a throw. Jesus Christ, I didn't see that before.
Wait, what was the throw?
Oh, I'll show you. There's a scoop up. I didn't see this before. I just noticed it right there. I think that was Trelaw.
Wait. Sorry. There's just a bit of delay.
Oh yeah. So it's a ground ball. It gets flicked up. It's probably a handball, and it probably looks like much more like a handball on the ground. But in the quick replay, it just looks like a throw.
Yeah.
So Mason Cox takes another big grab.
Yeah.
I think he misses this shot, or he misses his next shot. Yeah, he misses that shot, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit of a I know it's I want to see Mason Cox. Well, I mean, what you define as success, but I want to see him succeed because he seems like a legitimately cool bloke and
his success as well. I know we've had success with international players from Ireland, but his success as an American in this sport opens up the avenue to more American viewers as well, which is only good for the game.
Sorry, my housemates just came home. So, yeah. But yeah, like I love the AFL, and is okay. I think we should actually if you scroll back a bit, we should just address the Maynard thing.
Yeah. So, well, I tell you what, I'll leave this here. Let's have a quick chat about the rest of the fourth quarter before the last 2 minutes. Okay. So, fourth quarter, Collingwood come out firing. Kick the first 2 goals very quickly. It looks like they're going to start running away with it. Still within the first minute of play, Vardy marks and goals as well. And so there's been 3 goals kicked within the first minute to a minute and a half of play time, right? And it looks like, again, that it's going to end up with a bit of a shootout. It tightens up really well. It goes more or less goal for goal, with basically the scoreline never exceeding 12 points, but never coming below, I think, about 4 points. I think West Coast at some stage do get the lead, but they lose it as well very quickly. Yeah. And then for about, I think, 10 minutes, with 10 minutes to go or whatever, it's West Coast are down by 2 points or 4 points or something like that. And it stays like that for a long time. West Coast have been peppering away at the goals, but have been missing. In fact, for this quarter alone, they kick 6 behinds. They've had a lot of shots. They've had a lot of dominance in terms of being... I think I saw one stat during the game for the fourth quarter. They had time in front half like 92% to 8%. So they're dominating the ground game and the territory game, but they're not able to convert.
Yeah.
Did you think West Coast would come back and actually win, or did you think Collingwood were probably going to keep it?
Oh, it was one of those things where I'm just kind of like, they're missing shots. This is going to be the painful loss. Well, as painful a loss as seeing many pretty easy shots miss. I was kind of like, look, well, the fact that West Coast won, after I kind of felt like they shot themselves in the foot for every toe they had. Like, just with set shots in the last quarter, I was just like, yeah, it's going to be one of those things, death by 1,000 cuts, just like, oh, they missed this one, they missed that one. We should be up by a couple goals and not this, tense last 2-minute match. You guys should probably have walked away maybe 18-point winners. But yeah, just kind of thought, if Collingwood can hold on, I mean, this sounds like a Cameron Ling-esque statement. If Collingwood can hold on and not let West Coast score, they should win. I still swear to God that Cameron Ling, alongside that broken jaw he suffered against Dean Solomon, had also suffered serious brain damage. Okay, not brain damage, but he got knocked loopy and has not come clear yet. Point is, last 2 minutes are just going to be frantic as hell. And the fact that they kept missing, I was just like, oh no, this is going to be... You had the feeling that Collingwood were going to rebound and score a goal to break the Hearts, really. Yes, that was the feeling of it. You felt every single miss, Collingwood are going to do the typical thing, when a team is really close and they just keep missing, the opposite team will eventually come out and score, and they'll get that score, and it'll just be the sealer sort of thing. You knew that was going to happen. To be honest, this passage of play felt like that was what it was. Game over.
We're going to watch the new... I think everyone knows that you've got the big Leo Barry, you star, and then every West Coast fan will come out and just go, Sampi was held. I think this is the new Sampi was held meme, in that, Dom Sheed's going to be a star for this moment forever, but you've then got the main hardwood shepherded out, You got that tag. It's a small tagline there.
Yeah. I was going to say, if Collingwood did score that goal, I would just, like that bit in The Simpsons, you can pinpoint the precise moment his heart tears right now.
That's right. See, I mean, Andrew's on the same track of thought that we are, that the West Coast are they're missing. Collingwood are going to go down and they're going to score a goal, and they almost do they almost do even after Sheed scores. There were 2 smothers for shots on goal that don't end up going through. They still almost get it. So let's have a look. The infamous play, and this play is going to go down in history forever.
Yeah.
Provides the run, kicks inside 50. McGovern, what a player! What a mark, Bruce!
That's a hell of a kick to get there too.
Yeah.
They need to keep going quickly.
And this is a brilliant mark.
I'm not gonna lie, I could have argued that Jeddah also was holding. Was holding as well, just from a neutral position.
Yeah.
Ryan, bloody hell. Yeah. A part of me was not kind of wasn't. I don't know. I was into the game, but I also wasn't. I was simultaneously not paying attention because I had a bit to drink, and I was just like, edge of the seat. I was only focusing on where the ball was going more than surrounding it. But seeing that again and seeing Rioli, I'm just like, that probably should have been a free kick. There's nothing to say that the Eagles would have gotten another goal, or another shot, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, in all 100% sincerely neutral supporter, I'm just like, I think that was held.
Yeah,
he was being blocked off the ball by Rioli.
There is a small argument to make that Rioli was protecting the drop zone so that he could grab the mark, but then you look at the replay again, and after he realizes that Sheed's going to come in and grab it, he shoves Maynard out. And doesn't come, and then doesn't come back to even make it look like he was trying to get the ball.
I mean, even then, one of my best friends is a Collingwood supporter. Pretty much just as soon as the siren went, I just went, "You okay, buddy?" It's like, "Oh yeah, disappointing," but I was like, "Yeah, I know that feeling."
I tell you what, actually, it's funny you bring this up, because even as a West Coast supporter, I said to my friend, and it's easy to say this after the win, but I felt particularly even before Sheed had kicked that goal, my feeling was that had we have lost the game or ended up losing, I would have been disappointed, but I wouldn't have been angry or sad or anything like that we lost, because it was a really close game. We fought for it, and both sides really fought. It was, if it was like a blowout like 15 was, or any of the previous couple of years or whatever, that I feel like that's a much more disappointing way to lose a grand final than a really close fought out battle, because you know that the players have actually really tried and given it their all, as opposed to just getting blown out the water. That's a more disappointing way to go.
Yeah, I mean, okay, as an Adelaide supporter, and then watching the grand final last year, I wasn't mad. I thought I'd be livid, throwing the mother of all temper tantrums, but I was just like, it was more just like kind of deflate. It was more deflating than actual anger. But that being said, like I was listening to, I saw this thing on AFL 360 it was a chat with Josh Jenkins about how he dealt with the grand final last year, and he was like, look, before I even put on my boots, I was exhausted. I just couldn't. Well, I mean, yeah. There's always next year. That's all I keep whispering to myself when I go to sleep.
So, West Coast end up winning by 5 points. Jack Darling should consider himself pretty lucky that he almost had Vietnam flashbacks himself for a drop mark in the goal square.
Oh my god, I saw that and I was just like, what the fuck?
Only this time it didn't come back to haunt him. Because last time it happened in the 2015 Grand Final, West Coast were coming back. They were on a roll. They'd scored the last, I think, 3 goals. They had huge momentum, and it felt like they were going to come back. As me watching it, it felt like they were actually going to get that comeback rolling. And then he drops it. It goes to the other end. Hawthorn score, and that was it. That was nail in the coffin. They weren't coming back from there.
Just.
Let's go through and go through each player on each side, and just give them a tick. Yep, they played well, or they did what they did, or probably not the best game from them. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Collingwood's backline, back 3.
Yeah.
Maynard, how'd you see his game?
I mean, I think he played pretty well. He got a couple of stiff shots, and I think he played okay. I mean, if it weren't for the fact that I would say he would have had a poor game if it weren't for the fact that West Coast missed a lot of shots. So I would say
I think Maynard played well, but he. I think he played well, but he was unlucky.
Yeah. I would definitely say that. That loss,
because he got smashed by Ryan. He got smashed again a bit later and really hurt his shoulder, and then he obviously had the last moment with Sheed and Rioli in the last dying minute sort of thing. So I think he played well, but he was just a bit unlucky on the day.
But my whole thing is I don't see him as, more or less, I don't see him as being. It was nothing. It was more or less out of his control, I guess. He wasn't.
Yeah, and that's what I mean when I say he was unlucky in certain things. Yeah. Langdon.
He played fantastic. I would say.
I would argue Langdon was Collingwood's best player for the day.
Oh yeah. But a part of me is if Collingwood did win and they were gonna go for the Norm Smith, it would be because last year just Dusty Martin won the Norm Smith, but I was Basher Hawley won that by a landslide.
Yeah. And I reckon if Collingwood had won and then Norm Smith went to a Collingwood player, it was probably going to go to Adams because, again, it's a midfielder sort of thing. But I reckon Langdon was more important on the day than what Adams was. Adams played a very good game, and there is an argument and a case to be made for him being the best player, but I think Langdon was
better,
more important on the day.
Yeah.
Crisp.
I mean,
I genuinely couldn't recall him on the day.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not saying that he played a bad game, but I don't think he went over and above or anything like that on the day.
Yeah. I mean, you understand a player like Luke Brown. He's got a. I would say I love Luke Brown, but he has a forgettable name, pretty forgettable face. Outside of completely dominating body on the grandest stage and just massive tackles and defensive efforts, I could quietly go a match thinking, oh yeah, he did play shit. Yeah,
yeah. Player that does his job but doesn't excel, sort of thing.
I wouldn't even say he doesn't excel. It's just it's one of those unsung things where you're
yeah. He's a bit like a Nick Smith from Sydney, or Brad Shepherd from West Coast, or I'm trying to think of who he would be. Every team's got one, really. An unsung
everyone's got a quiet
mid defender that does their job very well, but is not praised in the media for it.
Yeah, but yeah, Howe, he took a couple good marks, but generally I didn't see him being. I thought
Howe played pretty well, particularly in the first half. He played very well, and I thought his aerial capacity helped in the second half nullify. Like, even though Jack Darling got on top and Kennedy was kind of working his way, he was flying at everything, to be perfectly honest. He wasn't really pulling in anything. Yeah. I thought Hal was probably the only one to consistently get up and spoil.
Yeah.
I thought his aerial support was a huge factor in the game.
Yeah, like that's the... Yeah, I mean, aerial support... I mean, like, against a big, strong marking forward like the Eagles, yeah, you'd want that aerial support. And Jeremy House was like one of the best guys you could hope for in those situations.
Goldsack. How'd you rate Goldsack in this game?
I thought he played pretty good. Like, I noticed him more in the first half, and then he just kind of...
Yeah, I felt he faded away in the second half a bit, which I think has something to do with, you know, the fact that he's only played 3 games. Oh, 4 games, sorry.
And coming back from an ACL tear, that's...
Yeah, I think he played a blinder. I think he played a blinder in the qualifying final, but he didn't then get back to those heights for the rest of the finals. I think he played well, but I don't think he didn't beat his opponent per se.
Yeah. And then midfield next. Or...
Well, Greenwood's listed in the half back line. How'd you see Greenwood? He had the tag and roll on Yo.
Okay, because if that's the case, I really... that might have been a reason why I didn't really notice him all that much, to be honest.
See, I think he did a good job on Yo, but I think that Nathan Buckley made the wrong decision to tag Yo. He should have tagged Shuey.
Yeah.
And it's all well and good to say that in hindsight because Shuey had a better game and everything, but the reason is Shuey always gets tagged, which is why you don't notice Shuey having big games, you know, much more often. Whereas I think if you were to leave Shuey off the chain and let him not get tagged, he would be a much bigger named player than he currently is.
Yeah.
And the reason he's not is because he's always the one to draw the tag. Even with Gaff in the team, I think players let Gaff run around more because he's much harder to tag than what Shuey is, because Shuey's kicking skills outside of Hearn would be the best in the team, I would think.
Yeah. I keep forgetting Shannon Hearn's South Australian. Like, there are at least 5 of them in that game. I'm just like...
So I think Greenwood played well. He played his job well. I mean, Yo only ends up with 19 disposals. In saying that, there was about a quarter there where they tried to shift him onto Shuey, but Shuey was just, by then he was already in a rhythm. He was already in a rhythm. Whereas I think as soon as they made the move from Yo to Shuey, Yo then started to get into the game, and he had no influence on Shuey.
Yeah.
So I think he was good, but the coaching staff let Greenwood down. He could have been better, and because of that, he wasn't as good as what he could have been.
Yeah, I get that.
He did what the coaching staff asked him to the best of his ability, but beyond that, he wasn't. I didn't think he played. Like, he played well, but he couldn't influence himself because of the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Chris Mayne.
Chris Mayne. I think he played pretty well.
I think he played probably one of the best games of his career.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, I was going to say he was...
14 tackles. It's the 3rd most tackles ever laid in an AFL game.
Fuck. So, at a game for the ages. I mean, it might have been me, like, kind of getting on the gas pretty quickly. But, yeah, I do... Maybe not the individual moments, but I do remember a lot of Mayne being in the game, so to speak.
I saw him around the ground a lot. I saw him at contests a lot. I saw him nullifying a lot of contests. And obviously his 14 tackles was huge in terms of applying pressure. You got to remember that Collingwood laid 104 tackles. That's
Fuck.
huge. Like, West Coast
Yeah.
laid 74, which in and of itself is no small amount of tackles. That's a lot of tackles in a normal game, 74 tackles. Collingwood laid 104.
Yeah.
And that's obviously led by Maine leading the way in setting the standard.
I mean, like, like, frantic pressure, that is what you need.
So I definitely think he played very, very well.
Yeah.
Pendlebury.
I
I didn't really notice him. I noticed him in about 2 or 3 plays, but for the rest of the game, I didn't notice Pendlebury at all.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, okay, it might have been me not paying the closest amount of attention to Collingwood, but I'm like, man, Pendlebury used to be just a force to be reckoned with, and I just didn't really notice him outside of shanking a kick that actually worked out for the first
I think
guy.
Adams and Treloar have definitely gone past him in the pecking order in terms of being their main go-to guys as a midfielder.
Isn't Pendlebury like 300 games or something?
He's not 300 games, but he's getting close to it. He's getting old.
Well, what? Yeah, like that time catches up to everyone. So yeah, like again, I would say that again, like I would say I wouldn't take too much stock in my opinion because it's very you might be like, what year are you basing these opinions on? Like a couple years ago, like probably, like it's you know what I mean. Like I might be a bit behind in who's.
I think Pendlebury is now Collingwood's 4th best midfielder. In saying that, he's still a very good midfielder. Like that just says, that screams to the strength of what Collingwood's midfield is. But I definitely think he's now their 4th best midfielder, behind Adams, Treloar, and Sidebottom.
Yeah.
All right, Phillips.
Phillips, didn't notice him as much. I know he's one of the more improved guys for the Pies, but at least in this game I didn't notice all that much.
Yeah, no, I didn't really either.
Yeah.
Hoskin Elliott
had his moments. He's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought he was better as opposed to, he had much more good moments as opposed to bad moments. He kicked the first goal not the first goal, but he kicked a goal in the first quarter in that string of 5 in a row, and he was involved. He gave one to DeGoey as well. So I think he was pretty good and influential in the front half. Probably faded into the second half of the game a bit, but I definitely think he was definitely contributing and doing his job.
Yeah, like that's kind of what what I meant. Like when I was saying, like the midfield forwards will most likely, I guess, pick up the slack for if the forwards aren't firing. But and then who's next?
Myercheck.
Oh, Myercheck plays midfield.
No, he plays forward, half forward.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so Myercheck, he was pretty quiet again, had his moments, and it was just more of a.
I think he came in and out of the game. He'd come in for a special moment, but for the most part, he was pretty unseen, I think.
Exactly. Like, again, like, I'm pretty sure whoever's watching the stream, they're going to be like, he was a bit hit and miss, or some variation of that sentence. Like, that being said, like, I feel like the game was dominated by a handful of players, and everyone else was just kind of there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DeGoey.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's definitely. I mean, the media love to hype him up as a big game player, but he is a big game player.
Yeah.
He loves the big stage.
Yeah. Like that being like, I know it sounds like again, like he wasn't. Oh, how does again like. Well, forward doesn't have to do everything around the ground, but when it got to in his domain, he pretty much just every every time he got it, he was definitely using it to the best of his abilities.
Yeah, it was definitely the provide. I don't think he lost a contest. He was either nullifying one or winning one.
Yeah, like that's kind of pretty much what I meant, because I was like,
it's so good.
It's hard for me to kind of explain like words. Apparently, it's really hard for my words to brain to mouth. It's just too hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's what I meant. Like when it was essentially his moment, he stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, he did what he needed to do, if not go above and beyond. And it's epitomised. I think it was the first quarter in one of his goals. He shrugs off McGovern tackle, shrugs off a second tackler coming in, and kicks a goal around the corner.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
You can't make that stuff up.
No, like he was just had the moments of complete domination of pretty much of his position. So yeah.
Josh Thomas.
Didn't really notice him all that much.
No, I didn't either. I can remember seeing him around the ground at times and being a part of the contest and everything, but I don't remember him having a great influence. I think he may have kicked a goal or a behind, but beyond that, I don't think he really inserted himself.
Yeah. Then again, like, it was one of those games that could have been a massive shootout, having all forward lines fire, but it just didn't get there, so to speak. Like, it was definitely on its way there. It just kind of, I mean, I don't know if there were like another 2 terms, it probably could have been just all guns blazing kind of match.
Yeah.
But that shit happens.
Cox.
Yeah, he had his moments. I think him kicking that second goal in the final quarter was just like, maybe that's the moment. Like, Cox, he's got a second one. Let's run over the top of them, so to speak. But yeah, he was quiet in the first half. Got more into the match. I wouldn't say completely asserted himself, but yeah, he was.
See, I've been tossing and turning with Cox as to whether he played a good game or not, because I think I've finally sort of settled as to where I think he is, sort of thing, for the day. He didn't do much in the first half, but he wasn't needed to do anything in the first half. Other players were, doing their parts and doing it for him, sort of thing. And then, as West Coast are getting more into the game and they need a match winner to help them out, Cox kicks 2 goals, and he's starting to clunk some contested marks. He's providing a get out option from their defense. I think when they needed him, he was there. When they didn't need him, he wasn't there. So I think I've been tossing and turning as to whether to give him a tick for the day, as to, yep, definitely. I err on the side of giving him one because, for those reasons. He was there when they needed him to be there.
Yeah. There or thereabouts.
He's I wouldn't say that he was a top 3 player or a top 5 player on the day or anything, but when Collingwood needed him, he was definitely putting his hand up.
Yeah.
Varco,
the first goal was really good, and then it was just kind of middling. Pretty
yeah,
middling.
I think he set the tone for the start of the day with the first goal.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't recall him making any plays or anything.
I do remember some pretty good tackling efforts, which I think got up holding the ball, but nothing too substantial.
Actually, I think I remember seeing him lay 2 tackles in the forward line back to back. Neither were called for holding the ball, but it was enough just to not give West Coast the space. But beyond that, I just don't really recall him in the play very often.
Yeah. I mean, can't think of many games where you have, like, this would probably be one of the downsides of talking about play by play, because sometimes it's just like, oh, what do I say about this person who was a 5 out of 10 on the day? But yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. We don't have to actually say something about every player, but the ones that we that are there, then definitely. Yeah. Here's an interesting one for you. Grundy.
Oh, I don't think he played too great.
I wouldn't give him a tick for the day. I think Collingwood ended up having like 57 hitouts to West Coast 29 or something like that. So he's definitely won the hitout count, but I wouldn't say that
there was much impact.
He hardly hit out to advantage. And his around the ground presence was not there. I can't even recall him taking a mark, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't. Like, I know I've seen, like, apparently, well, this year he's had, like, free range to more or less roam the field, and I only recall that once, and even then it was, like, in garbage time, so to speak. Like, maybe the stage got to him, maybe he was feeling the pressure of, oh shit, I am more or less the load bearer for the entire game of Collingwood, and just didn't live up, didn't step up to the plate. But yeah, like, he's still going to be he's still a fantastic player, and I don't doubt him. I don't see him completely falling off the wagon, I guess.
Yeah.
Even then, like, that's the thing I say about Collingwood. It's just like, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure I said this about Adelaide as well. Just like, yeah, I don't see them going away next year. But then again,
to be fair with Adelaide, and we'll only touch on this very, very shortly. I'd said at the start of the year in my preview video that I thought Adelaide would be top 4 again, unless injuries struck, and injuries would be the only thing that would deter their season. And that's exactly what happened. They got smashed by injuries in the start of the year, and it just derailed them.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the...
Taylor Adams.
Taylor Adams...
I think it's pretty universal. It was arguable between him and Langdon for best on ground for Collingwood.
Yeah. The speed, precision, crumbing.
Well, he had 19 contested possessions out of his... I think he had 31 in total.
Shit. Holy shit.
So he played a blinder. He was a big reason for Collingwood staying, or gaining ascendancy, or at least nullifying West Coast mids in terms of contested possessions and stuff like that. He was huge for Collingwood.
Yeah. Like, that was... I mean, 19 contested possessions, that is...
I think in terms of Norm Smith, most people tend to agree that either Adams or Langdon would have gotten it if Collingwood won.
Yeah. And,
Side bottom.
Just nothing.
Yeah, it was very, very well blanketed by Hutchings.
Fell flat. Yeah, just fell flat, but, that shit happens.
He did one good thing all game, and that was the pass to De Goey at the start of the third quarter or the fourth quarter? But beyond that, he was non-existent all day.
Yeah.
His lowest tally for the year, I think. Yeah, I think he only ended up with like 12 possessions or something, which is his lowest tally for the year.
Bloody hell. That is it's not good. Yeah, like, I mean, and then maybe I jinxed him, because I was like, he had 72 disposals in the last 2 games, like, and it's on the G again. Like, oh man, he's gonna like dominate. Look, if you're listening, Steel Sidebottom, I am so sorry.
Well, he cursed you. All right. Treloar.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I wouldn't say remarkable. I'm pretty sure I've watched games where he's grabbed it by got a game in the stranglehold and just absolutely obliterates everyone. But maybe not, like, just not this game. He had his moments, but other than that, it was just, again, a little bit middling.
He had 26 possessions. So he was the second leading disposal getter for Collingwood.
The Pies.
But I mean, I don't recall him creating or being involved in any scoring chains.
Yeah.
I think he was there and obviously played his part in equaling, West Coast mids and everything. But I can't recall him bursting out of a pack with ball in hand as he normally does. I can't picture any plays for any scoring involvements that he was a part of.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Aish, how'd you see his game?
Non-existent.
Yeah, I don't think he was like beaten or he had a bad game, but he didn't have a brilliant game. I think he was basically 50-50 or whatever. I don't think he was beaten, but he didn't beat anyone either.
Yeah, like, because I just can't, just for the life of me, I just can't think, well, when you say James Aish in the finals, I was just like, I can't picture anything. Which is, it might be a bit harsh. I'm pretty sure if I rewatched the game and paid close attention, I'm pretty sure I'd find something, but just at the moment, nothing.
Yeah.
Jaden
Stevenson?
White hot start, but just completely evaporated after the first quarter.
Yeah, I think he definitely worried West Coast, and I even said this in my preview that Cox wouldn't worry with the West Coast defence, but the likes of De Goey, Stevenson and Thomas would in terms of their mid-sized forwards, because if they get over the back, which Stevenson did, I think, twice, then he would, that's the only way that he would be really concerning for them.
Yeah.
And Sia. This is a name that I haven't even heard of.
All I know is on Reddit, it's just like James Sire was robbed. And I'm like, uh-huh.
Well, he ended the day with 21 disposals. So I don't know what he was robbed of.
Well, they've been saying this for months, but I don't know what it's in reference to, and I feel like I'll sound like an idiot if I ask.
I don't even know who he is. I didn't notice him at all. I don't know whether he was a part of any plays for Collingwood. I don't recall seeing him, or I don't recall hearing his name being called throughout the call.
Yeah, it's pretty much the exact same. That is my feelings of that's my feelings about Sai. I was just like, I didn't notice him, to be honest.
So that leaves the Collingwood list with 7 ticks out of 22 for players that really played well on the day. Just to be perfectly honest, in a losing grand final isn't actually too bad to have. It's not 50%. It's probably about 40% of your playing list having very good games. And to be fair, a lot of the players that didn't get a tick next to their name still at least held their own. So
yeah, it wasn't outright. None of them had outright. Well, none of them had outright stinkers. Like, nothing I can go, oh man, this is particularly terrible.
Yeah. Besides Side Bottom and maybe Pendlebury, only given their high standards.
Yeah.
I'd say they played bad games.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
Alright, so we move to West Coast, and we'll start with their backline as well. Shannon Hearn.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Made some shaky decisions, but other than that, he was, good.
It was pretty good without being excellent, I think. I think he turned the ball over twice, which is pretty uncharacteristic for him. It was, solid in terms of defense. To be fair, the entire backline of West Coast saved West Coast. But I don't think he was anything more special than what he's been over the course of the year.
Yeah, I get that, yeah.
Barras?
He played really well. I think he barrassed Mason Cox.
No, I see what you did there. I reckon.
Don't encourage it.
I reckon Barras was a very sneaky chance for the Norm Smith, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, first time I heard of Tom Barras was like round. I'm gonna say round 20. Well, the final round, 2000. Let's say 16. Yeah, 2016, when just the Eagles played the Crows at the Adelaide Oval, and then just Tom Barras absolutely poleaxed our forward line. Like, who the fuck is this guy? And, well, I've been proven wrong.
I think there's a lot of comparisons to be made between Barras and McGovern in terms of McGovern was an All-Australian within his first 40 games or something, which is just near on unheard of sort of thing, especially for a key defender. Yeah. And he's, McGovern's only played 100 odd games. Barras has only played 50 odd games, right? And you really think about that for a second, and you go, these two guys are absolute staple marks in our defence now. That's pretty. Yeah. That's pretty good recruiting, I think.
Yeah. I honestly think, maybe, I can't think of a terrible, actually, no. I was going to say I can't think of a terrible recruiting team, but then I'm just like, what about Gold Coast and St Kilda?
Yeah.
And, maybe Carlton. And you're just like, I wouldn't even, Brisbane, who... I think their issue was people just kept leaving. They were good players, they just kept leaving.
Yeah, they kept recruiting people from interstate, which when you don't have a lot of players coming through your state's junior system, that's what you have to do and rely on. But they probably could have definitely done their due diligence on players earlier better.
I mean, to be fair, Adelaide, I think are now just like, let's just shore up our options and draft locally. I mean, thank God this draft is apparently stacked with really good South Australian talent, so yeah. Anyway,
alright, moving on. Schofield.
Yep. Schofield, I thought he played pretty good. I thought he was playing really well. Did enough to maybe not even nullify entirely Collingwood's forward line, but he definitely, there were moments where I was like, he's doing his job.
Definitely saved the West Coast on numerous occasions.
Yeah. And that's that's what you want out of a play, a good defender. Pretty much, yeah.
Duggan.
Yeah. I don't know, I wouldn't say I don't remember too much of him playing, but he was. I guess it was fine enough. So
yeah. I thought he played well. And this is coming from me being biased. I thought he played really well, but only because I watch his games and everything compared to what he normally does. But I wouldn't say that he was over and above brilliant or anything. He's not someone. If I take my biased glasses off, I would put a tick next to being, he was definitely a playmaker and he made a difference sort of thing. Someone else could have come in and done what he did.
Yeah.
McGovern?
He played exceptional.
He's normal, lofty standards, really. I think Barras played better. I think Schofield in the second half played better, but McGovern was better for the whole game. But he was definitely very good.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I feel like there weren't many times I can think of where Collingwood really just tried to hit up a leading forward. There was just kind of we're just going to chaos ball it in, and then hopefully our Crummers can...
I tell you what, the only time that I can recall anyone inside the forward 50 getting a mark besides Mason Cox, and it was the only time that they actually went around and nullified McGovern, was when I think it was the first quarter. Yeah, first quarter. There was a handball just outside the 50, which brought the player closer to the 50-meter line, which took McGovern out of the game in terms of being a spare, because they could then go around him. He was too close to the man with the ball, and that was when Hoskin Elliott came, marked the ball, and then had the set shot. That was the only time that I can actually recall from the top of my head McGovern not being able to intercept.
Yeah.
Without Mason Cox taking a contested mark, I should say.
Yeah.
Jetta.
Yeah, I thought he had again, it's pretty much he had his moments, but other than that.
Yeah. Outside of maybe two moments, I couldn't recall seeing him throughout the game.
Yeah, no chase down the wing with like Rioli from like a couple of years ago.
How good would it have been if it was Jetta chasing Stevenson into goal when Stevenson was running into goal? Do you reckon he would have got him?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I feel like the way Stevenson was going is like, even if he got it on the boot, even like a split second before he got tackled, I think it would have been a goal anyway.
Possibly, yeah. Redden.
Yeah, I didn't notice too much of him. I heard he had an excellent game against the D's, but yeah, I didn't notice him all that much.
Yeah, so I think he finished with 21 disposals. So he played okay. He's basically, done his job in terms of not letting the Collingwood midfield get dominant or anything, but he himself wasn't dominant either. I think he played his game. I think he played his role, but he didn't go above and beyond.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like you said, essentially once he stopped getting tagged, he was rolling forward. Essentially, the goal, the kick that dropped short, and the goal that's subsequent from it, I think that really turned the momentum their way. But I don't think that was. I think whoever was gonna mark that and go back and kick it would have,
Yeah, I think he got really frustrated as well. Gave away a lot of free kicks. I don't think he handled the tag very well. It's probably one of the first times he's actually been tagged, because it normally goes to Shuey or Gaff. So I don't think he handled it well. Yeah, I wouldn't say he played a great game. He did enough to say he was serviceable. He was okay.
Yeah.
He didn't let Greenwood completely blanket him out. He had like a small amount of influence on the game, but he definitely wasn't his normal self.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Marston.
Again, kind of didn't notice him all that much. Maybe like one or two moments, but other than that, I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I can remember seeing him in and around the ball a lot, providing a contest or a running role around the ground or whatever. But he got less than 21 possessions, so he wasn't influential or anything. I think he was basically just that, adding into the midfield in terms of not letting Collingwood's midfield get on top. He basically provided that kind of role, which was all he needed to do. He didn't go above and beyond.
Yeah.
Half forward, Liam Ryan.
Yeah, a couple good moments. I'm pretty sure he shanked one, or at least one of the shots sailed into the post more than. Yeah.
Yeah, post high too.
Yeah. He had his, I would say, not even impact. Well, okay, it was plenty impactful on Braden Maynard's ribs, but
well, see, okay, there's a few moments here that he makes impacts obviously that one that lifted West Coast standard of being, pressure and tackling pressure and everything. You've also got the mark on the wing in the last quarter, where he then kicks it to Sheed, and it's the game-winning goal. He also is running into goal before passing to Lacroix, who then passes to someone in the goal square. So I think he tackled. I would say that he played a pretty good game. But again, it could be my one-eyed bias supporter or whatever. But I saw him in a lot of plays that were moving West Coast into attack.
Yeah.
I don't think you could have asked for him to do much more than he did.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Darling.
Well, honestly, I thought he was having a stinker, and then he really got into it, and then he was pretty good. Like, I thought it was leagues better than, his second half was leagues better than his first, because the first half looked completely terrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I'm of the opinion with him as the same as Cox. Even though they did need him in the first half, they needed him more in the second half, and he came to the party and stood up.
Yeah, pretty much. I just can't... honestly, seeing some of his disposals and that botch where he dropped the mark in the goal square, I was just like, oh god, no. Yeah.
I'm on the fence about giving him a tick, because he was so bad in the first half, but really, he was probably the difference in the second half. What? So I'll leave it up to you whether he gets a tick or not.
I mean, I guess maybe I think just no tick. Just that I felt that first half was pretty egregious.
Yeah, I think his first half brings him down for the game. Lacroix.
Lacroix, I kind of thought might have be either he's going to be the dynamic crumbing forward that West Coast might need, or he's just going to be dead silent. And yeah, it was pretty much dead silent for me.
He was a pretty much non-factor for the game.
Yeah, which is sad because I know Mark Lacroix can, when he's on, he might be one of the best small forwards in the game, but sometimes he's just he was a non-factor in.
He was basically a number running around on the ground, and that was about it. Rioli.
The first goal was
monumental.
Lucky.
Lucky, monumental, got them on the board.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say he outside of that and maybe the dubious non-free kick. I would say, he wasn't super influential. He's kind of there.
He was there. He was in the play sometimes. He was doing bits and pieces, but he wasn't. I'd agree. He didn't have a huge influence on the game.
Yeah.
Kennedy.
Well, of that first set shot, I was just like, oh god, it's going to be one of these days. But with that being said, he got back in the game, kicked 3 goals. Again, realistically, if Kennedy kicks one of them in the last quarter, if they kicked a couple in the last quarter or in the first quarter, they would have won maybe 2 or 3 goals.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it wouldn't be close, but I would say you would be more comfortable. But yeah, Kennedy gets a tick because he got himself back in the game after what would be a confidence-shattering miss, because Kennedy's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could believe he missed that shot.
Oh, I was just like, oh no.
I was shattered when he missed that shot, only for other outside reasons that I had sneakily placed on myself.
Yeah.
I would still personally give Kennedy a tick. He kicked 3 goals. he was pretty good for the entire day. I don't think he was beaten. I think he beat his opponent without kicking a bag.
Yeah. It was again, it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
Have convincingly beaten your opponent, but you're just not your day. Well, it's still your day. You kick 3, but it's not the monumental 5 that you would that most people hope for out of their gun mid forward.
Well, I'd made the prediction that we would see the most goals kicked in the grand final for a long time. That didn't really come true.
Yeah.
But it was on the table to come true. I think he still could have.
Yeah.
But, you know, he didn't get to those heights, but he was still a very good player on the day.
Yeah.
Cripps.
Yeah, I didn't really notice him all that much. Maybe when he got one of the balls over the back and then just kind of slotted it. But other than that, it wasn't super. Yeah, I don't remember too much about Cripps.
I think he laid a few tackles. I think he was good for the pressure up forward. But he didn't kick a lot of goals, and I don't remember him coming off of the half back line, because he's specifically in the finals he's been coming off of the half back line and running through the centre bounces to be able to then get the ball and you know, press forward with it. I didn't see a lot of that. Now that may have just been because of the lack of the amount of goals that were scored to give him the opportunity to do that. But yeah, it didn't look like he was doing that a great deal.
Yeah.
Lysette.
Yeah, he was holding his own in the ruck contest. Missed one really gettable shot. But yeah, he was there or thereabouts.
Yeah. I'm really on the fence with regards to giving him a tick, only because he was able to help in nullifying Grundy's influence. He had a set shot, whereas, you know, Grundy didn't have any shots in the forward half. He was able to at least... He actually had 2 shots on goal. One was a set shot, and one was a kick that ended up being a missed kick, and then Jack Darling marked at the top of the square. So he actually had 2 options to be able to have a shot on goal. So I'm on the fence about giving him a tick as opposed to not giving him a tick. It's pretty hard. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I think I would say no tick, just because it was it was a gettable shot, and like I said, I was honestly feeling like, with these missed shots, West Coast are shooting themselves in the foot for every toe they have. It's just these agonizing, just oh my fucking god, someone,
So speaking of Luke Shuey, Andrew, next player off the list is Luke Shuey.
Luke Shuey, excellent. I picked him as the Norm Smith medalist. But yeah, I thought he was one of the strongest performers on the ground. Just what he's done throughout. Like, most games I've seen West Coast, it's like Shuey, Gaff, and just roll like a goddamn like a tank through midfield, opposition's midfield. They're just dominant. And yeah, Shuey kept up appearances, probably even went one better, but yeah, he was fantastic.
Well, there's an article on AFL.com.au today. Luke Shuey has had the best grand final for the last decade.
Fuck.
He had, since the player ratings came into effect in 2010, he had, I think yesterday's game, he had 34.9 ratings. And the next best is just touching 30. Which was Dusty Martin last year.
Yeah.
Do I think he deserved the Norm Smith medal? Yes. I picked him to win the Norm Smith medal before he actually won it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, same here, pretty much. Yeah.
Hutchings.
Yeah, he was kind of there.
I think he did a brilliant job. He completely blanketed side bottom. He got quite a few possessions himself, and he kicked a goal. So as a tagger, he smashed his opponent, and then he goes and attacks and kicks goals on him as well. So I definitely think he played very, very well.
Yeah, because I wasn't super sure what his role was, but yeah, if he's a tagger and he kicks I think that...
Well, he's a tagger. He kept side bottom to, I think, 12 possessions, which is the lowest he's done for the year, and he kicks a goal himself. He near on gets best on ground just for that role.
Yeah. But it's a midfielder's game.
Yeah, I know. Dom Sheed.
Clutch.
He's Mr. Clutch. I definitely think he gets a tick, only because he ends the day with 32 disposals.
A goal.
A clutch goal. And the amount of times that he got us out of the defence, normally with a hat kick, which I hate that kind of kick, especially when he does it.
Oh, yeah, no.
But it normally fell to a forward. So it never really...
It worked.
It never came to bite West Coast on the arse, that exit kick around the corner. So I definitely... clutch.
Yeah. That's what I've designated... Oh, sorry. There you go.
No, I finished.
Oh, well, I designated the nothing kick to no one. Just, like, I hate seeing it done, especially, like, with the Crows. Just, like, turn around, throw it on the boot. No one's there. The opposition picks it up, kicks it back in. Nothing was accomplished. Ugh. I mean, to be fair, a lot of that does seem to happen when we don't just pass it over to Brodie Smith, who torps it traceable at 50 meters down the line. But yeah, I just don't. Yeah, the hat kick.
Hat kick generally doesn't work. I think it's generally seen as a bad kick these days. But for whatever reason, it worked for him yesterday. So can't complain with it.
Football gods had smiled on him that day.
Daniel Venables.
Didn't really notice him all that much.
No, he had 4 disposals for the day. I think he was... I saw him in a lot of contests, and what I saw was he was thereabouts, but he was just missing the ball, or his hand pass just missed the guy, or it was just one of those games where he was almost, but it just wasn't there. Yeah. Unfortunate, but for a first-year player, I don't think it's too bad. He gets a grand final, medal around his neck for 4 disposals for the day.
We need to introduce the Cam Mooney Award.
I know, yeah. Because I reckon he gets the Cam Mooney Award for the day. He's the worst player on the winning team.
I mean, yeah. Like we gotta. Okay, next year we gotta Photoshop something like that. Just like.
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to get a video and make it the AFL Access Player of the Grand Final, which is the worst player of the day on the winning team.
Or maybe it's like, I don't know, a year ending. Once we finish the reviews, we do a year ending like awards show in massive air quotations. Just
It wouldn't be a bad idea. Moving on, Nathan Vardy.
I thought he played excellently.
Yeah,
like,
I think
maybe not, all the disposals, but I was like, he got his job done. He kicked a goal. He really, I feel like he probably did more to lock down Grundy than Lysette, but that's just kind of like my opinion.
No, I would agree. I think he did more to blanket Grundy than what Lysette did, as well as kicking. He kicked the first goal after the 2 quick goals from Collingwood in the first quarter, so in the last quarter. So he brought them back. to being completely blown out of the water. So he's definitely got a tick. I think he definitely played his role.
Yeah, that's like I just thought. He played fantastic.
Yeah. Last but not least, Tom Cole.
Didn't really notice him.
Yeah. I thought he stopped a few goals being scored. He had a goal scored against him when he dropped the mark, and then Stevenson ends up kicking a goal on the run. He did his job for the most part, but he wasn't. Yeah. He wasn't excellent or anything like that.
Unremarkable. I mean, that it's probably a bit harsh, but yeah. Yeah. Like, honestly, I think two very evenly matched teams, and Collingwood just came short.
So the whole point of this exercise was to basically see, as a player by player on each team, which team had the most players that were more influential in the contest, right? Collingwood had 7 out of 22 that we gave a tick as to being, they played a good game on the big day. They went sort of more than what their role is designed to do or whatever. West Coast had 9 out of 22. So
that sounds about right.
We see that, over the course of a team, the better team won. By a very small amount of players on their team playing better, which again reflects probably the small margin it ended up being won by. I think West Coast definitely could have won by a larger margin if they were more accurate in the last quarter, though.
Yeah, that was kind of my a summation of it.
And that sort of comes and brings us to the Norm Smith count. Okay, so I asked you earlier today what your Norm Smith count would have been, and we both agreed Luke Shuey was 3. Our next one differed, but only differed on which West Coast player we thought played better than the other. I went with Tom Barrass as 2, and you went with Dom Sheed as 2, which you could probably argue, who gets that spot as between the two. Both played very good games. And we both agreed.
I was going to say, I might just even be a bit. I wouldn't say, a little bit biased just because clutch
goal,
you can't, in front of what looked like some very vocal Collingwood supporters, he just goes back on a pretty tough angle and splits the middle. And he got a bunch of possessions as well. But I feel like it just might just be... Look, I love defenders. I really think that sometimes they are completely screwed over because it is a midfield... Well, more or less a midfielder's game. But, I think that, just that clutch moment just kind of puts him over the edge.
Yeah. And we both agreed that Langdon was the best player for Collingwood.
Pretty much.
I'm actually of the belief that Shuey played such a good game that if Collingwood ended up winning, he probably still gets the Norm Smith in a losing side. I definitely feel like Shuey was, regardless of who ended up winning, let's say Sheed kicks a behind instead of a goal, then Shuey is still best player on the day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I think they might just... I don't know.
I don't think he gets the Norm Smith only because, the whole, it's got to go to the winning team, and it's very, very rare to go to, unless they're absolutely playing a blinder. But I still think that Shuey is by far and away the best player on the day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, how will the voters play out?
Yeah.
Do they give a bit of an edge to the winners? But it's all theoretic. Yeah.
So, I'm going to have to skip the next topic of discussion only because we're running over time by quite a bit. And we'll quickly move through the last topic of discussion before closing out the stream or podcast or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Where do you see the teams next year? Do you see West Coast competing for another premiership, and do you see Collingwood vying for another grand final?
Like, my whole thing is, I've kind of just said, look, I see at least 13 competing for 8 spots next year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could be very well surprised and find out. Well, I feel like the top 12 and Brisbane this year will be in the mix for the 8 next year. Again, outside of
without going into who's going to be in the top 8 too much, because I do actually want to leave that for another either stream or video between you and I as to what's going to happen next year in the top 8.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you think West Coast ends up at the end of round 23?
I'd say top 4, 4th, like anywhere in the top 4. It wouldn't surprise me if they...
Mm-hmm. And Collingwood?
Yeah, top 4, maybe 5 or 6. It depends.
So you still have them making finals, though?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Again, outside of, like, crippling injuries, or, I don't know, like, outside of, I would say, circumstances out of their control, I do not see them missing the finals. Because that's what we need. Collingwood being good again.
I tell you what, even though like no supporter actually wants them to be consistently good, it is good for the game.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's gonna happen eventually. Like, by the law of averages, St Kilda will be good again eventually. I don't know how long, but you know, law of averages and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So with that, we want to thank everyone for coming in and listening and, you know, asking questions throughout the stream or interacting or anything like that. I suppose, does anyone, before we close out, does anyone have anything they want to ask us, our opinion of, before we go? And I'll let that question hang there for a few seconds, obviously, because we've got a delay on the stream and everything. And I'll mention before we go out as well, as we go out, we will be listening to the West Coast players sing the song, only because, you know, they're the winners. If it was Collingwood, they would have, you know, we'd be doing the same thing for them. And it's a special moment, I think, to listen to the players, specifically after a grand final win. I think maybe only because of tradition that we do it now, but doing it after every game may be a bit excessive. But it's also pretty special when you're actually on a winning team, even during the normal game, to do it. But you do see that when teams are winning a lot, you know, say you go back to Hawthorn during the three-peat, they're winning a lot over a long period of time. They're kind of over-singing the song every week, and you see that. It's not until maybe a grand final win where they really bring the gusto out, as opposed to, say, like, I don't know, Carlton this year, when they did get a win, they're super, super happy about getting to sing their song.
Yeah. I mean, I know, like, Gold Coast. Look, I know, like, we'll probably talk about this in the season previews or whatever, but just, come on. Just let them be
good for once.
Respectable. Let's
go back to 2014, when they're vying for a top 8 spot. That was good.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I know people find American football to be boring, but it seems competitive this year. Like, New England doesn't look like they're just, like, gonna sleep their way into a Super Bowl. I mean, I could be wrong. I should ask Josh Jenkins on Twitter, just like, mate, who's making the playoffs this year?
All right, so I don't think anyone's got anything to ask us this time. So with that, we thank you for coming in. If you haven't done so already, please do leave a big thumbs up on the stream, guys. It lets us know that you want to see more of this kind of content. Also, if you haven't done so already, make sure you do subscribe and ring that bell for when we do release content. We will be finishing off the club reviews over the course of the next few weeks. We'll probably be releasing videos on a much faster schedule as opposed to 2 a week, now that we don't have the finals to preview as well. And then obviously we've got some projects and everything in the off season that we want to be working on and whatnot as well. So we do thank you for supporting us throughout the year, specifically over the last couple of weeks when we've been uploading a bit more. Thanks for Joel for jumping on board and helping out with the finals and the club reviews as well. It's been a huge help for me specifically.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for giving me the opportunity, because to be honest, this is one of the things I wanted to get in. Well, more or less YouTubing I wanted to get into. I just either didn't have the drive or just didn't know where to begin. So thank you, Ryan, for more or less not seeking out. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, is what I'm trying to say.
And with that, guys, we're going to close it out with a rendition of the terrible West Coast Eagles song. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you later. We should close it out with our tagline. This has been your AFL Access.
Your AFL Access.